But anyway, the larger question of how should we respond to the language issue? What should be the correct language policy? First thing first, which languages should a child be taught in school? On that, there is complete consensus among all experts in the world. People who work on education, who work on language, who work on brain development. Everyone agrees that a child must be given early primary education in the language closest to his or her home tongue. Whichever language is spoken at home should be the language of school. So, if the home tongue is Bhojpuri, Maithili, Marwadi, Chhattisgarhi, the school language should be that, not even the standard modern language of the 8th schedule. It should actually be what are called dialects. These regional languages should be, or sub-languages, or whatever name you want to give them. One should normally call them just languages. These are, or technically, these are the non-scheduled languages. They should be primary education. Along with that, a child should be introduced to other languages. Please remember, a child can easily learn up to 3, 4, 5 languages. And actually, if you learn more languages, it strengthens your primary and secondary language. It doesn't take away. More languages is better news for child. That's what all the experts agree. So that should be the foundation. Start with mother tongue, build other languages on which you can go transit. In the middle school, you can transit to the standardized language. So for example, you start with Marwadi, then my middle school, that child goes to standard language connected to Marwadi, which is Hindi. And then similarly, you introduce them to English, and gradually you build up their linguistic corpus. That's what all the experts say and agree upon. What should be the role of English here? Because there's a lot of debate and controversy on that as well. Again, every Indian child should have access to English language, because English language is one of the best window available to us to read world literature, to get knowledge on all kinds of things. You can't depend only on translation. So it's a good idea. Every child should learn it. However, there is absolutely no need to make English into a medium of instruction. This is where we are making the biggest mistake, because English medium education is not about learning English language. You can learn English language without learn it reasonably well. I can tell you in my case, it's only in class 6 that I learned the English alphabets. You can learn English language reasonably well for your needs without learning history, geography, mathematics through English medium. You need to learn other languages. We are a multilingual country. Every child should learn other Indian languages. I, for example, studied Punjabi in my school. If you are studying in Bihar, you should learn Bengali. So a language other than your own mother tongue is what you should learn. This was the spirit of the three-language formula. Three-language formula, which is not something which has come up right recently. It's a very old thing that began with the Higher Education Committee headed by Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. So 1948-49 is the three-language formula origin. Later on, in the mid-60s, when there was a serious conflict on the issue of language, the Constitution said after 15 years, Hindi should become the official language. When that deadline came, there was serious protest, especially in South India, particularly in Tamil Nadu. 70 people died. After that, there was a reconciliation. All the chief ministers sat in 1968 and they worked out a compromise. The compromise was, all right, every child in this country will learn three languages. One is their own mother tongue. Second is Hindi, third is English. But if the mother tongue is Hindi Then they would learn another Indian language, preferably a South Indian language. This is what the formula said. Unfortunately, the formula was never implemented sincerely. And the biggest sabotaging of the formula took place in North India. Because while many states of South India started teaching Hindi, states of North India never showed any seriousness about teaching a language other than Hindi. And unfortunately, they started using Sanskrit as a shield, not in order to teach classical learning or not in order to actually teach Sanskrit language. This just became an easy bypass route through which you would not have to teach any South Indian language. Naturally, people in South India feel cheated. Or most other non-Hindi speakers feel cheated. I have to learn your language. You don't learn my language. What kind of national unity is this? What kind of a formula is this? They seem to be saying. And that's perfectly right. So, three language formulas is a good recipe, a recipe that has unfortunately never been implemented in its true spirit. The National Education Policy of 2020 repeats the three language formula. As a matter of fact, they dilute it. For the first time, the three language formula of the NEP 2020 does not mention Hindi. It simply says any three languages, of which two should be languages native to India. That's where the debate stands. So, first, we have seen mother tongue education, and as far as possible, medium of instruction should be the language closest to the child's home language, and the standardized languages like Hindi, Oriya, Tamil, etc. should be used for education and higher education after primary sector. What about linked language? That's a question posed again and again. If you look at our civilization and history, we have never had one linked language. It's only for a very limited official reasons that some language has been used at one point or the other. We don't need one linked language. We do not need to put everyone through one language. That's not necessary. A recent study said 87% Indians in their life never go beyond their own district. Well, if that is the case, why do we need to force everyone onto languages? Yes, some of them will go out. They need to pick one language. Some of them will go abroad. They need to even improve their English language. But we don't need to impose it on every single child. Now, what about Hindi? That's a tricky question that is posed every time. And people assume that anyone who's opposing the domination of English must be a Hindi wala, must be a Hindi supremacist. I don't know how to respond to such simple things. All I can do is to quote from an article that I had written. This is something I wrote a few years ago, because what I can say about Hindi is I have repeatedly said that Hindi Divas must be stopped. That we must remember there is nothing called a national language of India. We don't have it. We don't need it. And the pretense that Hindi is the national language should just stop. Hindi walas need to be very sensitive and careful. I wrote this about Hindi, and I think on this respect, my opinions have not changed. I'll just verbatim read out what I think I wrote 5 years ago. Hindi has no special virtue or claim to privilege over other Indian languages. If anything, Hindi is younger and therefore relatively poorer than much older languages like Tamil and Kannada. We forget that Hindi, what the Hindi that we recognize today is less than 200-year-old. And languages like Tamil are more than 2,000-year-old. So Hindi can play a special role by acting as a bridge that connects some languages, though not all. It has helped connect Arunachali tribes, but I cannot imagine that Malayalis and Tamils would need Hindi to speak to each other. So Hindi as a bridge for everything doesn't work. In some cases it does. But Hindi has to earn this trust of other language speakers. It cannot demand it. This whole idea that if you are Indian, you have to be Hindi, there's absolutely no basis for that. The only way Hindi can do so is by becoming impure, borrowing generously from other Indian and non-Indian languages. To borrow a metaphor from Vinoba Bhave, Hindi cannot remain pure like a river. It must expand like an ocean, which is to say, not subsume others, but to learn from others. That's what Vinoba is saying. In any case, this must be left to the society, media, and market. Any official imposition of Hindi is against the spirit of our nationalism and is, in fact, counterproductive. So this whole business of government promoting Hindi, I've repeatedly said this should just stop. Hindi is spreading somewhat due to some market needs. Government promotion of Hindi has only damaged Hindi, has only, A, because they produce a Hindi which no one can read and understand. B, it produced deep resentment. After my article, I've received several messages from people describing their experience. When I came to Delhi, people said, I'm a Madrasi. They forced me to speak this language. I served in a bank. People forced me to use Hindi. This kind of imposition doesn't help the country at all. This should cease. We don't need that. We don't need this official promotion of Hindi. If people want to watch movies of Mumbai and if they find Hindi useful for that, good. If some people find Hindi cricket commentary useful, good. If not, okay. If people in Mumbai want to watch Tamil cinema, they want to learn Tamil, good. Otherwise not. So leave it to society, leave it to economy. Do not impose it. That, to my mind, is the way out of the present situation. The big thing that no one talks about, and that's my real fear, the larger issue is not Hindi versus Tamil. The larger issue is the dominance of English. When friends in Tamil Nadu say Hindi is being imposed on us, I understand what they are saying. But tell me, is there really, do you see any signboard saying learn Hindi in 7 days? You don't. But everywhere you see these signboards about English speaking course, English learning course. What we are witnessing is a gradual erosion of all our languages at the cost of English. And the English that we are giving our children is not the kind of English which will actually give them deep understanding of that language either. So we are giving up on our own languages. We are not quite understanding, except in some cases, we are not quite able to handle English. And in any case, the experience all over the world tells you that the only way to become truly modern is not to imitate anyone. Stand on your own ground and look to the sky. This is what made Europe a modern society. We will not become modern by imitating Europe, not by picking their language, not by imitating their language. We'll become modern when we stand on our ground. And that is the ground of multilingualism. That is the ground of our culture and civilization. And then looking up to future challenges for which our culture, history, tradition never prepared us. That is what we need to do. That is what is going to make us modern. So, resist imposition of Hindi. I'm with you on that. Also resist the hegemony of English. That, to my mind, would be a good way to start a serious thinking on the question of language. Thank you.